if you want it to make it like less than an hour, let me know, and you know what I mean, and stuff.
Yeah,
Normally
sure.
I give musicians maximum an hour, you know, obviously
Right.
if they want it. Right, let's start the show.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll just start it from here, actually, since we came on talking. Hello, everyone, and good evening, and welcome to another episode of Musician Chat. And today I've got a brilliant musician from Kingston upon the Thames. And actually, I didn't know where that was until I asked Gary, believe it or not. Gary Summers is our guest today, and he told me it was in London. And of course, I said to myself, silly me at the end of the day. So I'm now going to bring Gary in. So, Gary, hello, good evening, and welcome. Hello.
Hello, Alice. Lovely to see you again, and lovely to speak to you again.
Hello. Yes, it is brilliant. It definitely is brilliant. 100% at the end of the day. It's great to have you on the show. Yeah. So
Thank
obviously
you.
for this hour, we're going to be talking about your three songs at the end of the day. One in a Million,
Yeah.
which I played on a show 5 years ago at the end of the day, and obviously I want to hear how that song's progressed since the 5 years. That's great. So we'll start off with that one, playing that one. But
Well,
first
is
of
it
all,
5 years already?
well, it is 2019 to 2024. You know, I'm 5 years older. The song's 5 years older. We're all 5 years older. But first of all, let me just ask you. So, about music. So, what was the thing that got you into playing your first song, your first chord, or your first, riff as such?
Well, I think that it was the inspiration that I got from the bands that came out during the 60s, particularly the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Yardbirds, Led Zeppelin, people like that. And I just thought, wow, I really need to learn how to play guitar. So I got hold of a friend of mine who was having guitar lessons, my cousin actually, and he was learning from the book by Bert Weedon called Play in a Day. And we learnt from that book together. And I since found out later that a lot of famous guitarists, including people like Brian May, Jimmy Page, Jeff Beck, all learnt from the same book, surprisingly.
That was really good, 100%. So obviously you grew up with the Beatles. Did you have any
Mhm.
particular favorite tracks?
Oh, wow! There are so many great tunes. I think that probably from the Beatles. I think that's probably one of my favourite albums is the Revolver album, and that's got Eleanor Rigby on there, and it's got Taxman on there, and two great songs from that album. But also, the Stones. There was an album I remember buying when I was a young teenager, and it was called Out of Our Heads, and probably quite appropriate for the Rolling Stones, really, I suppose. And Led Zeppelin too. I got into Led Zeppelin, and in a real big way, as well as Deep Purple too.
Yeah, so it was more sort of like prog rock you got
Yeah,
into.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's right. Yeah, quite melodic stuff from the Beatles, and sort of more rock from Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple and so on. Yeah. But I think that my musical tastes do vary a lot right across the board, because I first was into Elvis. My parents were into music, and they played a lot of things like Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin. They're sort of my earliest memories of music, and then moving on to Elvis, and then sort of later on towards the Beatles, and the sort of the British invasion, as become known as, who went on to have success in America as well.
That's great. That definitely is 100%. So, yeah. So, would you say if you were like a musician around today and stuff that I mean, there are still chord books you can learn from. Obviously, I've got even chord books, but would you say that the music was influential back in those days, if you see what I mean, compared to music to today?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was different. I wouldn't say necessarily that it was better or worse or anything really, but it is different without a doubt. There's a lot more different. There's a lot more different influences now than there were, say, back when I was a young musician, looking to try and make it as such. And I think that the youngsters now, they have influences from social media and just generally sort of life is quite a bit different now, and the quality of sound is quite different now. It's a lot. You can record music and make it sound a lot better. You can add a lot to it, and we already know what the influence of AI has had on music. We've seen some of that already, and of course, none of that was around back then. And when the bands from the '60s were recording only on 4-track machines, and then later onto 8-track, whereas these days an individual can get as good a quality music as they like from recording at home at relatively low cost. In fact, yeah, it's.
I mean, let's talk about AI briefly because you brought it up. I mean, a lot of people have mixed opinions about AI. I mean, obviously, AI can be great at the end of the day if you need something done quick at the end of the day. But do you think it's actually proven to be like actually the same if you were to go in a studio and record professionally than music having put through this machine? What's your take on that?
Well, I think there's good and bad in it, really. Just as a little experiment, I went on to Chat GPT, and because I'd heard, that you can ask it to compose a song for you, and so I did. I sat down on the website page, and I asked it to compose a piece of music in a certain style, with lyrics that were upbeat, and I asked it to do it in the style of the Beatles, and what came out was really well, I wouldn't call it very good. It sounded to me, well, it didn't actually play anything. What it did was it showed me what the tune might be. It showed me some basic chords that would go with it, and it gave me some lyrics which I thought were extremely corny. But then again, that probably will improve as time goes by. Incidentally, I recently watched the latest video from Billy Joel. Billy Joel's been around a long time, and he's had some great music, and he's won Grammy Awards for his music, of course. And his latest single is him sitting at the piano, playing and singing it, but it's the image of him from the 1970s. Now we're talking about a brand new song that is just written. Okay, so it starts out with him as he is now, and then it flashes back to his image as he was back in the 1970s. So it's him sitting at the piano singing this new song, only the image of him is from back then. And then it moves on to another period of time back in the sort of 80s as well. And I think, well, that's incredible. It's a real eye. It's different, it's you don't expect to see that.
That is because, in some ways, I think AI might become good for musicians because, they can then do their own videos and a cost of a video editor. Obviously, for the people that need work in the music industry, editing videos and stuff, it's not good for them at the end of the day. But on the other side, I think definitely 100% for musicians that want to do their own video and, and just be creative with it. And then you're not, or dare I say it, like video editors being able to give more time to that client and that video and charge less because they're using an AI tool, do you see what I mean? Rather than doing it by hand. So I definitely think that it will be able to basically, bring out great new loads of material, the AI does. And I didn't know about you could do music videos with AI, so I might try that myself and stuff at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think it's good and bad in it, really, because, first of all, if you're using AI, you don't have to employ lots of different actors, so it puts actors out of work, doesn't it? and you don't necessarily have to go out on location
No.
to film it. Whereas, for example, when we shot my video called "There She Goes," we wanted to create a wartime experience with all the actors and people that were in the video all wearing period clothes, because it was set in the period of 1944. So there could be no electric guitars, electric basses. It all had to be double basses, acoustic guitars we have, and drums, of course, and everybody dressed in what looks like gangsters from the 1940s, but it was the actual clothing that people did wear back then, with trilby hats and so on, and we spent a whole day shooting that for a 3-minute video. Sorry, it's a 4-minute video. But the results were great. We're really pleased with it at the end of the day. It was fantastic. And the storyline behind that is that it centers on a young couple who are about to be conscripted into the war at that particular time, and they're having a last minute fling in a pub, having a few drinks with their friends before they go off to the war the next day. And then this young couple meet up, they have a dance together, they start falling in love together, and then just as they're really starting to get on, the captain of the regiment that one of them is about to go into suddenly turns up at the pub and breaks them up, says, "No, right, come on, you got to go to bed, you got to get up early tomorrow." And it's sort of like a heartbreaking message that it sends across. So, but it's we were really pleased with that, and we really like it, and people might like it. Hopefully they do.
Absolutely, Gary, absolutely. And actually, we're going to put that song on now since you're talking about it at the end of the day. So the song is called "There She Goes" at the end of the day. And obviously, where can people find it?
On YouTube, the Gary Summers Band, "There She Goes." On
YouTube. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, after this song has been played, guys, I'm going to boot Gary off of here for about 2 minutes at the end of the day. Don't worry, it's not going or anything. I'm going to show you the YouTube video link that you can actually access the song as well. So for now, we're going to play Gary's song called "There She Goes."
Her face says she means it, but I don't believe it. There she goes, and no one knows why. She's taking a chance now, but is she running out of time? When I see that look of satisfaction, I can't help but to stop and wonder why. Would she answer my one and only question? While now, or to wander on by. But these feelings that she holds, about a love that can't be told, with a passion soon unfold. And there she goes, a look in her eye. Her face says she means it, but I don't believe it. There she goes, and no one knows why. She's taking a chance now, but is she running out of time? Take me to the realms of adulation. One word, and I'm hers, no reason why. Sometime between my passion and my duty. Act now, or forever walk on by. But there'll be no second chance for a satisfied romance. Leave the world behind and dance. And there she goes, that look in her eye. Her face says she means it, but I don't believe it. There she goes, and no one knows why. She's taking a chance now, but is she running out of time? that look in her eye. Face says she means it, but I don't believe it. There she goes, and no one knows why. She's taking a chance now, but is she running out of time? No one knows why. There she goes, that look in her eye. Her face says she means it, but I don't believe it. There she goes, and no one knows why. She's taking a chance now, but is she running out of time?
Okay, guys, that was Gary Summers, and there she goes. And here is the official video on YouTube. I'm just going to set it as full screen, and I'm also going to play it for you as well, so you can see a little bit about what Gary was talking about. You can do as well, so you can go and find it on YouTube, Gary Summers, and there she goes. But here is the video.
There she goes, a look in her eye. Her face says she means it, but I don't believe it. There she goes, and no one knows why. She's taking a chance now, but is she running out of time? When I see that look of satisfaction, I can't help but to stop watching.
Video, you can go and find it on YouTube. And now I'm going to bring Gary back into the studio with a piece of magic at the end of the day, so I can say 1, 2, 3, and I can bring Gary back in. I can do so. Just bear with me 2 seconds. I'll just bring him back in. Here he is. Wait a minute. There you are, Gary. Wait a minute. I'm just going to unmute your mic at the end of the day. So we've got the mic unmuted. Yeah, your mic's muted. So hello, Gary. Hello. Welcome back in the interview.
Hi, Alice.
So
Nice
yeah,
to be back.
very interesting song and very interesting video from what I saw on the YouTube when we shared it. I quite like the fact of you actually, it's very sort of like what I would call sort of that catchy sort of rock, sort of glam rock sort of feel. Am I correct?
Yeah. Much of my music has ended up on playlists on Spotify. Various people, people run their own playlists, and some of the playlists have lots of listeners, lots of streams, and some of the playlists not so much. But predominantly, it's tended to, my stuff has ended up on 1980s playlists. So you might often see, say, Aha, that song Take On Me, that song by Aha.
Yeah.
Typically that there might be Bon Jovi on there. There might be sort of, I don't know, lot of 80s artists. And I think the 80s have got a very sort of distinctive sound.
It has, yeah.
They tended to use, at that time, they were using a lot of experimental instruments like drums, electronic drums and things like that. Sort of around about the period of Whitney Houston and so on. So that's where it tends to end up mostly.
Yeah.
But there is a little bit of a story that's behind There She Goes.
Yeah, sure.
And I'll just sort of try and give it to you fairly quickly. But it was, we wanted to shoot that video in a venue which could look like a 1940s period. And you can probably see that it looks like it's shot in a pub, which it was. But it was finding a pub that didn't have too many modern things added to it, that hadn't been modernized too much. And we found this pub where we finally shot the video, and that was actually in New Malden in Surrey. And the the beauty is that they have a room which is like a room where they have musical functions on, and we said, okay, we're going to hire that room. We're going to hire that for the day. And what we like about it is it looks exactly as it might have done back in the 1940s, without being too modernized, you know.
I know that. Yeah.
So the only thing is the pub's closing down. So I said, oh, okay. So we need to book it for a day before it closes and make sure that we can get all the actors together and all the extras, because there's a lot of dancers in the video, and people are all dressed in 1940s style. Like the ladies have their hair in like curls, like, well, I think they call them Victorian curls or something like that. I can't remember the exact name of it. And you know, the guys are all wearing these sort of 1940s suits, rather like, say, Humphrey Bogart, and from that particular period. And we had to hire all this gear. Now, the only problem that happened was that I actually ended up in hospital.
Oh.
I got a fairly serious condition with a blocked bowel, and it meant, and this all happened just around about the time when we were about to shoot the video. So I needed to get out of hospital and get up and do shoot the video. If you look at the video, you'll see that I actually look really, probably about 10 years older than I do now, because I was really quite scrawny. I hadn't eaten for about a week, and you know, I'd had all kinds of medical issues surrounding the problem that I had at that time. But it's all fine now, and I've had no repercussions from it, so I'm pleased to say. But I was, you know, absolutely determined for this thing to go ahead, because if we hadn't shot the video on the day that we shot it, we wouldn't have had another opportunity, because the pub was about to close in about a week's time. So we just got on and we did it, and you know, I'm quite proud of that.
Yeah, definitely, and you should be, because from what I saw of it, we played about 30 seconds of it. From what I saw of it, yeah, it actually looks, you know, it actually looks like wartime and that sort of stuff. And there's a really nice style to it, so definitely you should be. What gave you the idea to shoot in a pub for that video?
Well, the storyline was, you've got this young couple that are about to go off to fight the war, you know, for Britain. A lot of young people, if you think about it, you know, probably 18, 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds, young men, young women, and they were going out to fight against the enemy that wanted to try and take over our country. And so there were a lot of brave young people there, and the words of the song lend themselves to that kind of a storyline. So that's how we ended up putting that together.
Yeah, well, it's an absolutely great video. It's fantastic. And like I said to everyone, if they want to go and watch the full video, it is YouTube, Gary Summers, and there she goes. So let's just go all the way back. And I think I was discussing to you this to you before, to your first ever single you wrote, which is called One in a Million, that I played on a show 5 years ago. I did, when I first interviewed you. And I found it very interesting. And I have to say, it was in the time, everyone, of the lockdown, and a lot of people were writing really emotional songs about people that had passed, or you know, or they want to remember. And your one in particular stood out at the end of the day. I remember on this interview. So can you just tell everyone what that song was about? And as from 5 years ago, I mean, a lot of people won't have seen the show 5 years ago that I interviewed you on. But as from 5 years ago, how is the song done?
Well, it's done really well. We had 130,000 hits on Facebook. And I put it onto YouTube a little bit later on, so it's had a few hundred hits there. But at the time it was first released, it was about 133,000 to date of hits on that particular song. So I'm very pleased that it's got out there, and a lot of people have seen it, and a lot of people have been touched by the lyrics, as you said.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was in particular. You were one of the ones that I heard, and you know, and it felt very heartfelt, and it kind of, you know, got to me, because believe it or not, I'm quite an emotional person. So when I hear music, you know, it will kind of touch me, sort of thing. I mean, 130,000 views. Wow. It
Yeah.
must have been a very good song. So how did you get those views, if you don't mind me asking?
I was just spreading out on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, not TikTok. I don't think TikTok had really sort of taken off at that particular point, but using advertising methods as well to get it out there.
So,
And so by using advertising, you can get into the market. You can choose your market. You know, you can choose where you want the music to be heard. For example, in my case, it was mostly I chose for it to be in the UK and in America, because that's where those people that live in those countries are going to identify more because they speak English. But also Germany, France, Japan, and in Asia as well.
so did you pay advertisers to?
Yeah, you do have to pay for advertising. Yeah.
Yeah, I just have to ask that, obviously, because if people are thinking, "Oh, great, no, I can go and get advertisement for free at the end of the day on my song." No, nothing's free for life in this life, guys. At the end of the day,
the good thing about it was, Alice, is that I had several hundred shares on that as well.
wow.
So a lot of people.
I don't suppose you're allowed to say the site you used, are you?
Sorry?
I don't suppose you're allowed to say the site you used, are you?
Slightly used. Probably, yeah.
You used. Are you allowed to say the site you used?
Yeah. For advertising, it was just Facebook advertising.
It was just Facebook advertising. So is that something that you recommend people to do? Because I've seen the Facebook, like, you know, they've asked to pay, they've asked, you know, so that you can pay for advertising and stuff. So is that something you'd recommend people with a new release to do? Or
I do. Yes, I would. I mean, the important thing for musicians that are just getting started out there is that you want to get in front of people. You want people to hear your music and see your videos. And it's not going to happen if you just put it up on, say, Spotify, because nobody's going to hear it. You've got to get it out there. You've got to get in touch with playlisters, and you've got to advertise to make sure that you get your music heard. And that's the only way that it's going to be seen. And of course, once music is being heard, then you start getting royalties coming in after a while.
So
and you get more interest.
So in your case, like, obviously I'm not going to ask you how much you spent because it's a bit personal, but do you think the amount you spent on Facebook advertising, obviously in your case, was worth it? But what about if someone didn't get that amount of views that you did? Would you still say it's worth a go?
Oh, without a doubt, yes. It wasn't. I wouldn't say that it was really expensive. I would say that it probably ran to somewhere between £100 and £200, something like that.
Right. Okay.
For me to get 130,000 hits. But you know, as I said, people shared it, and then other people listened to it, and so it went out really around most of the English-speaking world.
Wow, that's great. That's great. You said that is something we haven't covered on this show. So, like I said to you, you know, before we start, you know, guys, this show, each episode, we have a different topic coming up with questions. So please watch these shows because you can learn from these and stuff. You can learn tips from other musicians. It's not just that, you know, musicians coming on to be interviewed about their song and their life, but it's also tips that musicians are giving you at the end of the day, so you can take it out there into the working world. So this song, go back to it one in a million. So you obviously wrote it, when your ex-wife passed away.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I had a period in my life where I wanted to. I had a number of songs, probably around about 17 or 18 songs, and I'm thinking to myself, cool, you know what? I've probably got enough here to do an album. And I spoke to one or two people, and both my brothers are musicians as well. And I said, look, you know, I was thinking about putting some of these songs together and do some demos, and then, you know, possibly actually recording an album. And they said, well, what a great idea. They said, you know, you've got some really good songs there, and I think you're going to be successful with them. So it sort of gave me the encouragement to get out there and do it. And of course, with the technology now that you can have just at home, you know, at your fingertips, like you've got there now, and you know, you can you can get some reasonable demonstrations of the songs, how you want to put them across. And so I recorded all the demos, as we call them, myself at home on something called GarageBand, which actually comes free with if you buy a new Apple computer or even on an iPhone.
Yeah.
And so, and I, spoke to a few people about using that equipment and so on. And I bought a microphone and one or two other little bits and pieces to go so that I could record my songs and make them sound better.
Yeah.
And then I was able then to pick the musicians that I wanted to actually play on the proper recordings, because they were demos. They weren't. What you hear is not. They're not the demos. They're just so I can show other musicians how the songs go. And then I called on all the musicians that I wanted to play on the album with me, and they loved the songs and they wanted to do it, and so they all got involved, which was great.
Yeah, that's great, 100%. And
some good musicians too. They really are.
So, do you mind mentioning those musicians that played on that song?
Yeah. On keyboards, we have a guy called Vic Martin, and he was with Gary Moore Band for the last 11 years of his life. Gary Moore is an Irish rock blues guitarist. And then we had Tino Troy on guitar. He's with a band called Praying Mantis. They tour quite extensively these days as well. And on the drums, we had a guy called Keith Boyce, who was and still is the drummer with a band called the Heavy Metal Kids. And they had quite a lot of success back in the 70s, and great drummers. So I had some great musicians there, and they helped me a lot when we went into the studio. They put forward lots of ideas to help me, because putting their experience into it, you see, that was really, really good. And so that was great, and those were the guys that played on it. You can check out, there's a lot of information on my website, by the way, if anybody's listening and wants to have a look on there.
Yeah, and what I'll do, Gary, is once we played one in a million, I will boot you off again for 2 minutes, and I will go to your website and I'll show it on the screen. So if people want to check it out, they can do in the day. And guys,
brilliant.
we're now going to play Gary's track, 1 in a million.
Yeah, watch out for the 12-second delay at the beginning, by the way.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, have you got? Is it the MP3 you've got there? Are you playing the MP3?
Wait a minute. Hold on. What's it doing? I'm just waiting for it to unfold at the moment.
Yeah. It's from Spotify.
Why has it got 12-second delay?
That's a technical glitch that we couldn't get rid of. But on YouTube, you'll get the full thing without.
Okay, so wait a minute. It's not playing. It doesn't appear to be playing. So if I just go on YouTube and I'll play you that way. So Gary, can I just boot you off at the end of the day for about 3 minutes?
Yeah.
While I do the song. Right. Okay. So I booted you off basically. So basically, not that people can see you anyway, because the screen is with me. And I'm just going to go and basically what I'm going to go and do, guys, I'm going to go and share the actual video from YouTube. So all you got to do is go. I better share this actually while I'm doing this. Wait a minute. A minute. Oh, these live things always happen. That's why it's great to have live, isn't it? Right. Okay. Share screen, and then that one there. Right. So we're back to the YouTube screen, everyone. At the end of the day, so like I said, if you want to, oops. There's other videos playing. That's great, isn't it? If you want to go and find Gary's song 1 in a million, that's got the millions of hits, as they call it, thousands of hits, you can type in Gary Summers and then 1 in a million, and then the video should come up. The Gary Summers Band. Sorry, a minute. Yeah, very important. So the Gary Summers Band. 1 in million, that's it. Right. Here we go. So the Gary Summers Band, 1 in a Million, and the full version. So here we go.
Gary? We're letting people in 20 minutes.
Oh, okay. Okay, guys, let's just go for one more run through.
People say I don't seem to care about what happened, but they don't understand what it's like to lose your lover the day the sun shone out of my life. Feels such a long time ago, and with each passing day there's no answer. Now I can't find my way back home. When fate has struck so close to the soul, I just don't believe it, and I can't get my head around it. Like that never happened. What can I do or say in the morning?
And that was Gary Summers and 1 in a Million. And yeah, very interesting choice of style. So I'm going to unmute Gary and then bring him back in. I'm going to. So Gary, hello. You are now unmuted, and you are now back in. You are. Well, you were, but wait a minute. Oh, I've got to change the feed around. So sorry. I thought you were, but it was showing your video. The end of it instead. Sorry about this. Right, now you're back. Now you're back. Yeah, you're back.
Hello,
Finally.
here I am.
Hello. Hello
Still
there.
here.
Hello there. Yeah, I can see why I ended up liking the video in the first place. It's got that really sort of, you know, I think what you did is you turned a sad song into a really upbeat, happy song. You did at the end of the day and stuff.
Yeah.
And you can see yourself really enjoying it and stuff. I just got one question. Why did you choose that decor to do that video where you're on the stage playing with the band?
Yeah. We wanted to make it look like, as the story is, so that the band are on stage and they're just going through rehearsals for a couple of songs, sound checking, if you like, just before the audience comes in. And you'll see at the beginning of the video, one of the theatre technicians comes over to me and says, "Gary, we're letting people in the next 15 minutes or something like that. So just to let you know, so that you can stop playing because the people are going to start coming in." And then it switches. The band strikes up, and then it switches to the storyline that goes behind it, which is myself and my wife, and in going back in time when we were young and when we met each other. And then right at the very end of the video is that she walks into the theatre, and we haven't seen each other for many years, and we just greet each other again, and we start from where we left off.
That's really clever. Yeah, I saw that. So it's almost like a going back in time. That is really clever.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually really clever technique in the video, because I think what it's doing is it's going along with the emotion of the song, the end of the day and stuff.
Yeah.
And people get to actually see this person. Was the actor you got to play your ex-wife, was she exactly like her? Like in looking?
Very similar. Very similar.
Very
Yeah.
similar.
It's difficult to try to find somebody that's sort of 20 or 30 years younger that does look similar. But she was an actress we thought looked a lot like my wife. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So like,
fortunate.
yeah. So like, how did you cast her?
The company that we used to shoot the video, they scripted it. They drew up the storyline of it from using the lyrics to the song, and then they got in touch with the actors that are in the video and asked them to come along, and so it wasn't anything to do with me, it was to do with them.
Right. But did you tell them what you wanted? Like, my wife had, blonde hair or whatever and stuff.
Yeah.
Like
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Showed them pictures, and they selected an actress and an actor and by using the lyrics of the song as well, they basically drew up the storyline, and then presented it to me and said, "What do you think about this?" And I said, one of the original ideas was it was going to make it like really sad, to show my wife being very ill in hospital and being treated, and I thought, no, I want it to be a lot more upbeat than that.
Yeah.
So that's what we ended up with, and I thought that it went well with the song.
I mean, when the actor that was playing your wife walked in, like, did you feel like that was your did you feel like that was your wife, like what the video is meant to portray?
No, not really. But she did look a bit like her. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, I think that's one of the reasons why, I almost fell a bit in love with this song when I heard it 5 years ago, because it is such a lovely, heartfelt song, and I think you've done a really good tribute to her.
No, thank you.
I think people that write songs, that people that pass away, I think it's a really nice thing, and they're really doing them like it's a lovely thing as a send off for that person to remember, having a song written about them and stuff.
Yeah.
100%.
The lyrics are exact. The lyrics to the song are really exactly the situation. It's telling a story, and there's nothing made up
Yeah.
in the lyrics. It's all really exactly how things were from my point of view. The storyline in the video is a bit different, because we wanted to make it as attractive as possible for people to see, particularly given that I'm a relative, I'm an unknown artist really, and we want to draw people from the outset.
That's it. Yeah.
So we had to make it as attractive from that point of view as possible.
Of course, yeah, because people that don't know the song, when they hear the video, and actually I can understand why that video probably got loads of views, because seeing someone as the person that passed away actually in the room, actually really probably makes them have a tear in their eyes, or probably, makes them really feel your connection. So I think that was the reason why that video got big views as well. Gary, before we talk about your second song, which is called Heaven and Earth, I just want to talk about you as a musician. Now, I often have a period in the interview show where I ask people about the music industry in general, and a lot of them I've asked about Spotify and this is that and the other and such and such. So the question I haven't asked you, which we talked about earlier, and you were okay with me asking this on the broadcast, was, as a musician, obviously you said you don't get a lot of money, obviously from Spotify and stuff like that. And how do you live as a musician when you're purely relying on income? Or can you give anyone advice like how to, build up their income at the end of the day if they're not getting their what's called the typical advice of go on Spotify, do this, do that, do streams, goodness knows what.
Yeah, I think that I've got to say is that first of all, the musicians, singers, guitarists, whatever they want to make a living at doing what they do, because they feel very confident that they've got something there, and they want to do it as best they can. The only problem is that nobody out there knows that they have got this talent. And so first of all, you have to get in touch with people, venues, pubs, anywhere that puts on live music, clubs, and talk to those people and explain to them why you think you should be playing at that venue. But also in the meantime, you've got to make a living as well. You're not going to be making a vast amount of money from playing music, certainly not in the early stages. So you're probably going to be having a day job of some sort to supplement your income.
Yeah.
And wherever possible, try to get a job that's linked to the musical thing that you want to be. Now, for example, get a job in a music shop, for example, is a good idea, because you're going to be amongst other musical people, and you've got musical people coming in and out of your shop all day, looking at guitars, drums, and keyboards and things like that. So you're getting to mingle with other like-minded people.
Yeah.
Get your music onto Spotify, iTunes, Deezer. Oh, there's all the various different streaming platforms. My music's on 6, 7, or 8 different platforms. The main one, of course, is Spotify. But get your music onto that. It's quite easy to do. You can be in touch with. I use a company called DistroKid, and they distribute your music across the various streaming platforms, and just put it out there. Get in touch with playlisters, people that are there's certain super playlist people that are connected with Spotify, and Spotify appoint them as what's the name they give to them?
Creators, aren't they?
Sorry?
Creators.
Curators, that's it. Curators.
I'd tell you what, because I tried to apply for a job doing that this week, and I got told I haven't got enough followers to be a Spotify creator. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, you've got to get a few people, but I've got my 1 in a million has been on a couple of playlists where there are around 30 or 40,000 followers, and so that once you get your song on one of their playlists, that's going to give you a good boost, because that music's getting out there a lot, and then people start, once they hear one of your songs, you know, they may hear all the hits that they know, and then suddenly they hear my song and think, hello, I've never heard of this Gary Summers band, but actually it's quite a good song now, isn't it? And then they start looking on Spotify for other songs that I do, and so that helps to bring the other songs and bring the numbers of plays up onto that. But you're not going to make a lot of money from having your music on Spotify unless you're selling literally millions. So, but you know, that may come in time. It may you got to start from the beginning, and you've got to gradually work up from the bottom, really.
Yeah.
And then once you get your name around, you know, you can suddenly find that you're getting better shows, getting paid more money. But it all takes time to build all that up.
Yeah, definitely 100%. And we just got under 10 minutes left. We have. So what I want to do is I want to ask you about your song Heaven and Earth, and then we're going to come back and we're going to invite people to ask you a few questions at the end of the day. They're going to put questions to you. So Heaven and I can't speak tonight. Heaven and Earth. What is that song about?
Well, again, it was at a time about 4 years or so after my wife died, my first wife, because I'm remarried again now, as I mentioned earlier. But when I was writing the songs, I tend to write the music first. The music comes first, and then the tune comes along with the music. So I've got a little tune in my head, but hasn't got any words. Okay, so I'm thinking, okay, it needs to have words. So what shall I write about? So as I did with One in a Million, this second song, Heaven and Earth, has a similar undertone to it. Again, I'm writing a similar thing about my wife, but it's not completely. It's not a complete story as One in a Million is. So there's some bits in the song which are probably made up. But I think that I've often heard this said from other songwriters. It says that even though you may be writing lyrics that can be a bit abstract and not necessarily applying to anyone in particular, they say that you always end up one way or another writing about yourself. And looking back on it, I think there's a lot of truth in that.
Yeah, I mean, I with my first single, I wrote about myself, about my experience and stuff. So yeah, there's always truth in that, definitely 100%. Whether you do it in the first song, the second song, third song. Okay, Gary. So we're gonna play Heaven and Earth now, and then it's your chance, guys, to ask Gary while this song is playing your questions. We haven't got a lot of time. We've got just about over 6 minutes, so please get your questions in. And here is his song, Heaven and Earth. With a 12-second delay.
When all that I want to do for you, you'd never let to see me. And all that I try to say and do, forever you won't hear.
Right, guys. Okay, change your plan. I'm going to put Gary off, and I'm going to play the actual video track to that. I'm going to, because that seems to be a bit sort of all over the place, that song. Yeah. So, right, Gary Summers. Right. Then. And right, okay, right. Videos. Heaven and Earth. Wait a minute. Just going into YouTube. Right, there we go. Heaven and Earth, that's the song.
you. You're never there to see me. And all that I try
Yeah,
to
yeah,
say
it's that.
and do, forever you won't hear me. I know it's a wasted time again, leaving me lonely, talking about where you have gone. The more I go crazy, consider the pain you put me through, time and time again. Not lovers, just friends. Hardly believe the words we said, spoken in anger. The sorrow I feel, it's like I'm dead, like you're a stranger. And we're not the ones who say they know, since our last goodbye, and not knowing why. Heaven and earth, ever feeling so lonely, such a long time, still wanting you only. Though I know the reason why you went from my side, heaven and earth, feeling ever so lonely. And so I'm just waiting here for you, although you won't see me. With all of the pain you put me through, I'm getting so weary. And now I so miss the things you do. The end of our romance, there's never a chance. Lonely, 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 lonely.
Okay, and that was Gary Summers. That was. I mean, I think. Yeah, that's it. I've got the mic muted. Okay, that was Gary Summers, and that was Heaven and Earth. That was, and yeah, I just got to stop the stream and stuff and bring Gary back in for the last little bit. So we're going to bring him back in. We are going to right. Okay. Hello, Gary. You are back in. You're back in. You are.
Hi,
That's
Alice.
muted. You're back. You're back in. Yeah. So, Gary. Whilst we've been listening to the song, we've had a question come in from Ricky from the band Ricky's Rebel Rabble, Ricky Armstrong, and he has this question for you. Hi Gary. It's Ricky from the band Ricky's Rebel Rabble. Who is your biggest influence? Who inspired you?
Hi, Vicky. Great to hear from you. Thank you. I suppose that over the years that I've been playing music, I've had lots of influences from Queen. I've always been a big fan of Queen. Led Zeppelin, I'd say. Deep Purple, going back in time. More recently, in recent years, have been Snow Patrol, the Britpop thing, Blur. But I've got to say that overall, I think that looking back on the years that I've been listening to music, I've got to say that I think some of the best songs have been written by the Beatles. So that's Lennon and McCartney. And I like, the reason I'd say that is because it's the melody, the melodic tunes, you know, the idea that you can be walking down the street and whistling a tune, which sadly, with a lot of new music out these days, you don't hear it. You often hear a strong backbeat. You often hear a song written around one chord, maybe 2 or 3 chords if you're lucky. But I don't wish to sound harsh in terms of talking about modern music, because modern music now does have its place, and a lot of people are definitely listening to music that's out there now. But I do have my favourites, and it tends to be melodic tunes, and as I said, it would be Lennon McCartney. I think that would be my favourites that would stand out over the years.
Yeah, and that's absolutely great. Thanks, Gary, for that. Really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Stuff. Really appreciate that. And that we are coming towards the end of the show now, guys. And thank you so much for tuning in. And Gary, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you, Alice. It's been absolutely my pleasure, and thank you for talking to me about my music. I really appreciate that.
No, that's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine. So, guys, we've got another show with Eve Williams coming up on Thursday from 8 till 9. Don't forget, if you want to be on Musician Chat, it's musicianchat@gmail.com, or contact me on the Facebook, of course. There is a £5 donation fee you have to pay, but hopefully you're watching these episodes and you're seeing that basically it's a really good interview and we learn a lot at the end of the day. And also as well, if you want to donate to the actual Ko-Fi itself, then you can go to, I'll just bring up the link. Wait a minute, somewhere I'll bring up the link. Wait a minute, somewhere I'll bring up the link. Here we go. You can donate to, if you are a listener, https://ko-fi.com/musician chat. That's all from me tonight, and from Gary and also from Ricky, who's watched in the audience. I would just like to say a massive thank you to all of you, and I shall see you on a Thursday for Eve Williams, where she'll be discussing about how an injury changed her life and made her want to be in the music scene. Thank you very much, everyone, and good night.
Thank you very much, Alice. Bye.